First and foremost, we have MOHSEN NAMJOO, who doesn't really need an introduction. He's an Iranian artist, songwriter, singer, music scholar, and sitar player based in Brooklyn, New York. He was hailed, I'm not sure whether he likes being called that, but he was hailed as the Bob Dylan of Iran by the New York Times more than, I think, about a decade ago, actually. He's a visionary artist who blends the classical Persian sitar with electric guitar and rock and blues vocal techniques with Persian avaz. Since his arrival to the U.S. in 2011, Namjoo has been touring the world to sold-out concerts at prestigious halls such as Palace of Fine Arts, San Francisco, Conservatorio Sala Verdi, Milan, Italy, Disney Hall, Los Angeles, and many more. His latest album, Voices from the East, with Netherlands Blazers Ensemble, was released in June 2017. MOHSEN will be in conversation with two of his contemporaries, Salmak Khaledi, the trombone player of the band 127. 127 was what we would now call an underground rock band in the 2000s of Iran, very well known, and they worked together as a band between 2002 and 2009, produced several albums. They still are together as a band in the original members of the band, and are currently working on a new album. He's currently a music producer, has been for a while, also in Brooklyn, and runs his own company called Magnetic Pink. Hooman Hamedani, who will function as the interviewer between these two musicians, is himself also a musician. He was the lead singer of Gachpazh, a band that made music in the latter part of the 2000s, and Hooman has stopped sort of making music consistently. He's currently a scientist, as we said yesterday. He's a scientist at Penn and works on the lungs, lung diseases. He will be speaking to MOHSEN and Salmak about the underground rock music scene in the 2000s. But before we start that conversation, and before I ask our panelists to take to the stage, I'm just going to play two short clips to give you a sense for what their music sessions looked like in the 2000s of Iran. First, I'm going to play a short clip from a practice session that Mr. Namjoo had with a band that he had together with Abdi Behramanfar, another musician. This session was recorded. The main part of their activity initially was in Mashhad. And so this, and they actually gave a series of concerts in Mashhad, some of which are still sort of little gems that you can find on YouTube if you search really hard. This session is from 2001. It is from a song that is called Vaq Vaq Sag, the dog's woof woof. Is a sort of, I think the conversation about the song will come up in between the musicians here. So I'm just playing a short excerpt of this practice session. It's not very good video in part because it's from 2001, so this is 17 years ago at this point. In a moment, you will see MOHSEN NAMJOO in the left-hand corner of the screen. Whoops. Okay. And it was a bit of an abrupt, but the video was coming to an end. And here is a practice session of the band Siamdoust 127 in a sort of a makeshift studio they had called the Golkhune, the greenhouse. And I think over the years, a lot of musicians in that scene and a lot of sort of just young people at the time who you guys were friends with made it to the Golkhune at one point or another. At the specific request of Salmak, I won't play too much of this because he's embarrassed by it. But we will see Salmak playing the trombone in this video. Perhaps we stop it there. So without further ado, I would like to invite our panelists to take the stage.
All right, good afternoon, everybody, and thanks for being here, and thanks for all your effort. It's an amazing event. It's, I think, all done by Nahid, and it's really amazing that we're all here. It's a pleasure for me to talk to one of my favorite human beings before being musicians, and I call these guys, I think, the geniuses of music of this, genre that we are, and I really mean it, and we'll learn why, I think, through this talk. For Iranian, I think there is no need to introduce Siamdoust 127 and MOHSEN NAMJOO, of course. But for non-Iranian, I try to walk through the experience that they had. And I want to start with this video because I think it's a very good anchor to go a little past that and a little future of that. And I don't know why they're embarrassed by that because I love that. But it's a very good time if you guys want to deny it. Like, you have a chance to do that. But, so I think that's a good time because everything at that time was happening in the houses, right? There was no venue, there was no nothing, and I think, I don't know about MOHSEN NAMJOO, but I talked to Salmak that they even didn't know that this thing is gonna go and become something that it is today, right?
Well, yes, I mean, we didn't know we were a band. We were a bunch of kids playing music and making music, and then at some point there was this record store in Tehran, Beethoven, Babak Chamanara, who ran this place, and he told us that there's this underground online music competition and we should apply for this. And we're like, all right, so what do we do? He was like, all right, there's a music studio, here's the address, go record a song, apply for this. And then we're like, okay. So we went there, we recorded a song. It was really difficult for us to record because we didn't know how to. And we submitted it to Babak, and I was like, what's your name? I was like, we don't have a name. We didn't even think of, so we basically picked the first random thing that came to mind. Use a
random generator?
No, we were just walking on the streets and we saw like a car, number. I'm just like, 127 sounds good. We didn't know it's going to be a band, really. So let's start with that name, 127.
But I mean, I have the same experience about our band's name because we were in a car, like driving, and like we were going to University of Sharif to have and we were like, we don't have a name, how we should introduce ourselves. And it was a time that I think there were a lot of bands with like names that were going back to our history, like Whisper. And I was like, let's pick a name that is very, very purely Persian. And we used Gachpazh, which is the 4 letters that exist in Farsi and doesn't exist in Arabic. And that was it. That was the name that we picked. And MOHSEN NAMJOO, how did you come up with your band name? It's MOHSEN NAMJOO.
First of all, can I have this piece of movie for myself? Because I was. Yeah, thank you. I was surprised by having
anything from it or no?
No, my background was different because I studied traditional music, traditional way of singing at the age of 12 and 13. And then after going to university for music and then not finishing the school and then with living for some years in confusion, the guy with the I was writing and making my own music. Then you can call it still now like world music. Was based on the traditional Iranian scales. But the guy Abdi with the long hair and with the yellow guitar, he organized everything. He gathered us. He did all those things. He was a kind of very special guy because that time in 1908 in Mashhad is the most important religious city in Iran, and you are like beside the one of the prophet's grandson is buried there, and that's very important. You should be like, wow. And but he knew Jethro Tull, Camel, Supertramp, and all of this music. He was a great collector, and he was copying those CDs, and he was making money based on that. And a good guitar player, electric guitar player, and the bassist there had no. I was telling to Salmak right now, he still doesn't know how to read the music, how to read the notation, and most of them, that was just everything came up from the ignorance actually, and and when like a kid, as Salmak mentioned, when you're a kid, you have no idea of falling down. That's why you can easily walk on the border, on a blade, on like a high wall. But when you're matured, you're getting more conservative and like being scary of many things, like maybe we are now. But that time we had no idea what we were doing, and the name band Abdi chose that for mud, out of muddy waters, like mud, M-U-D, and the mud band. And also mud is the first kingdom, Persian empire in
that's what I meant.
Before revolution. Yeah. That's Iranians are so grateful of that. And but after that, we did that kind of rock. I continued with my own style, and also I wrote some rock songs inspired by this band. But we were separated. Then Abdi is in London now, and the rest of the band are in Iran.
So I think if you guys know, sorry I brought, you noticed that in Abdi's house, you really get a vibe of 70s, right?
Yeah, it's very interesting because like the fashion and music kind of stopped coming from West to Iran after 1979. It kind of stopped there. Like those videos are a perfect example of that.
So it's really 70s because we have to do this math.
The sideburns.
Yeah, but I think it was really the 70s that we were experiencing, and literally because our calendars are different. That was I think 70 maybe 3 or so. What year is that? I mean, 98, you said, right?
2001, I think.
Okay, which is what, if you do the math?
Which is what?
I mean, like in our calendar.
Why do we need our calendar?
I actually think that it's better to use those numbers because it
Okay,
gives
I tell you our calendar
okay,
later.
we can do the calculations later.
I don't
No,
know.
I actually
Who cares
to,
about our calendars?
I mean, it's more about the fact that it started over there.
Okay.
And it's 70s, you know.
82.
So it's our 80s
1382,
music, right? So I want to also like go to the moment that I met these guys. I'm sure they don't remember me because I was not a musician. I'm still not a musician, and so for me was going and seeing this guy. So I think I met you. I don't know if you remember at Floor's house in Saodat-Abad. There was a time. You see, like he can't. So we were talking about the memory. There is a lot of memories that we really lost because of, I think, the nature of
the scientific
explanation
is what? H2 SEDO-OH?
I think
what's alcohol? Because I don't remember. You know, most of our early 20s, we were kids in Tehran and entirely drunk. I admit that. You know, we are all guilty of that, and it's there's parties and music and not going to school.
Oh yeah. All the water bottles that I had in any recording is actually not water bottle. It's a vodka I have in my hand. Yeah, too. So yeah, so I met him over there, and I met you in Ila's house.
At Ila's house.
When you were really like in the beginning of what you were doing. It was a jam band at the time.
Yeah,
somehow.
we were just like playing music. So our band was a little different because Sardar and I were both studying music at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And Sohrab was writing lyrics and coming up with like melodies for these songs. And we were getting together at Sardar's place to just simply practice our music. And it was a little...
So Sohrab was not yet with you guys, or he was from the beginning?
No,
Sohrab
he was
the lead singer.
The lead singer, yeah. He started the band, basically. He and Ali, the bass player in that video, they started the band. They basically got introduced to each other by this guitar player, and they had a trio. And then later on, Sohrab and Ali decided that they don't like that guitar player. So they started playing together just as a duo. And then Sardar was a mutual friend. He started playing piano on that. Sardar and I had this jazz duo band, which was... you know, like we were playing basic standard jazz stuff. And then I joined the band. Siamdoust had 4 songs at the time. I played trombone for 3 songs, so then I was in the band. And yeah, everything has started basically from the first underground music.
Right. I'm going to get to that because I still want to go a little before that and then we... So I think before... age-wise, I think there were a couple of other people that were playing music just in parties. And by parties, I mean Mehmouni, and it was that concept. And it was Hooman Hamedani, and this is even before Arash Mitoui. And it was all about covering Hotel California all the time. So you would go to any Mehmouni, and there is like 2 guys that play in Hotel California. And that was, for a long time, that was going on. And I think until... Arash Mitoui and his band, and I think later Balgat, they started bringing Farsi to the Western style of, I think, I don't know if you want to call it fusion or underground rock. I still have, you know, like a lot of debate with my friends that we have our own style. We don't want to really name it any of these things. But so I think Farsi was a gate to this movement in Iran. And in the beginning, I called the Iranian rock Hafiz Saadi rock. Because it was all, you know, Western music, and someone was just reading it, which is Arash. Some of the Hafiz Saadi, and I think the nature of it was that because he thought that this is the only way that he can, I'm talking something that I'm not sure, but I thought that he was thinking that he can get approval for something like that if it's Hafiz and Saadi. Until, I think, the first time that I listened to MOHSEN NAMJOO, it clicked that, oh, it is really possible to use Farsi the way that he used. And I think all of us were influenced by that. So I want to talk about
Thank you. But before saying that, definitely later you're going to talk about that festival, the Tehran Avenue Festival. Also, Salome was part of that. and then we talk about in details. But before talking about myself, I was going to mention something about the 127 staff band, because as I mentioned, Abdi had no idea about the notations. Our bassist player was not. Actually, that was like based on the like their pure instinct and just playing music. But this band conceptually, because right now I'm working on a book. Hopefully 1 year, 2 years later is going to be finished about from my point of view, writing about the history of underground music, independent music in Iran. And this band, without any exaggeration, that because Salmak and we haven't met each other for 2 years, and because we both are busy in New York, we're city mates, but here was the first opportunity to see each other. They were real musicians. They were knowledgeable. Salmak has absolute ear, you know, absolute ear. Like when you're gonna just sing 256 or 440 about the exact hertz, exact frequency. He can, and also Sardar. Right now, he is organizing the core of the music scene, alternative music scene in Tehran right now. Sardar is running many bands like Palette, like Bomrani, like all. He is a very good counselor about that. And also Sohrab, the singer, was not a musician, and maybe was not that good singer, but he was.
When we started a band, like everyone was just like, "Your band is very good, but you should change your singer."
And that,
no, we can't. That was his songs.
Good band.
But this failure, I think that's a part of the speciality of that band. Right. Because is like my playing setar is definitely comparing with the setar players. I'm nobody there, but with but sharing those ideas of setar to just playing setar, like playing Tangerine Dream with setar is going to be something else, and something not very special, good or bad. And but Sohrab, their singer, was coming from the family, intellectual family. His mom is a really very creditable translator of mythology in Iran. Also, she is one of the first Nietzsche's translators to Farsi language. I mean, this band, this is my idea about them without considering our friendship, because this band conceptually was the most intellectual band in underground music in our generation. And because except having the knowledge of music, they were looking for the idea of that smart idea of mixturing, to just mixing something with something that is really new and special, to just say, because the time 2001, 1382 for you. We were starting.
Let me do the math. Let's go with our real date.
We were starting this underground music, and then we knew each other via that festival that Hooman is going to talk about. And the main stream was like Islamic pop music was announced everywhere in official TV. And Islamic pop music means having electric guitar and drums, and with just delivering the idea of Shia and talking about them like the Muhammad's daughter, Hazrat Zahra, to just talking about that, or having some suggestions, some orders to the society to just, please put your garbage at the 9 p.m. Out of the door. You know, the rock music conceptually was not rock music, was just having the instruments of rocks. But these kind of bands, Kiosk also was not in like well known everywhere, but in my generation, many of those bands, and unfortunately many of them, they moved out from Iran, or they're not active anymore, and the music scene is something else now that we're going to talk about in the next session. But that was my short explanation with my English level study about the 127. But about the idea that you said about the having Hafiz and Persian heritage of literature with contemporary music, I was coming from the tradition, from some roots of folk music, Iranian folk music, and also traditional music. And for me, with 2-3 elements now, not on that age, because that age was absolutely in ignorance, but after just looking back, I can say this, I can have this interpretation of myself, that first of all, larynx, as you saw here, was not a way of expressing something specific. Like, I'm singer, I'm just singer. This is larynx, this is just instrument. I'm not pop singer. I don't care about the style. I'm not a traditional singer. I'm just general singer, and just like a sound producer, sound maker. With having this general idea, also Hafiz, Rumi, and all those poets were not being to just moving our contemporary music to the some centuries earlier than us, to just sitting beside those maestros, to just having respect for them and delivering their message to us, because their era is absolutely different than rock music. The expression of rock music is something else, and Rumi is something else. That's why I was thinking, now I'm saying that maybe, I was thinking of having the general idea of sounds, to just thinking of some elements. Rhythm, for example, Rumi and Hafiz are full of rhythms. Language, we have Persian language, English language. Scales, we have half daskah and like Iranian traditional scales, and at the other side, blues and major, minor, and their mixturing, and also pentatonic scale. And the style of singing. With considering all of this, I was thinking of general idea of mixing, and with keeping the respect for Rumi, ask him to, please, maestro, come with us, come to our age. Please put this headset to your ear and run with us. Let's go to the park. Let's having with conversation, contemporary conversation with each other. That's why maybe if would be any point of interesting thing in the as you saying about the having Hafiz and Rumi in my first song for to rock music. The idea was coming out of this, to just not placing anything specific in its place.
But I think you took it to the next level. Your songs were maybe half from Saadi, Molavi, and Hafiz, but then you had a lot of new songs that was not in.
Part of lyrics was by myself,
right. So
also in conversation with Rumi.
With them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
This is basically what I really always aptly. So basically, how I know about MOHSEN, how I learned about MOHSEN was Sohrab Mahdavi from Tehran Avenue one day came to us and was like, listen, there is this CD, it's this guy, his name is MOHSEN NAMJOO. You go listen to it, but don't give it to anyone. He's very sensitive. He doesn't want anyone to know. And we're like, all right, sure, yeah, we'll listen to it. And we took the CD, and then it was all MOHSEN's original songs and not Rumi or Saadi. And I personally was blown away by it, because it was the first time that anyone in Iran, at least first time that I heard, that figured it out, wrote the lyrics, and performed it, because the concept of being a singer-songwriter didn't really exist before that. Like, all the music before the revolution in Iran was a full-on production. You know, you had a singer, you had a band, you had an arranger, you had someone who would write the lyrics specifically for the singer.
Right.
The whole idea of someone playing the music and having his or her original words with it didn't really exist. And then when I first heard Mohsen, I was like, oh my God, this guy really figured it out.
Mm-hmm.
And
Thank you.
And I think
he did,
so you want to talk about Sohrab as well, I think, because he also moved from English.
Yeah, that was because our first two records were in English.
Right.
Yeah, and it was probably because we couldn't really write anything in Farsi that we liked.
So you think he was influenced by Mohsen, or he was taking his own path?
I mean, his way of
different two ways.
Yeah,
but I mean, the fact that we were all scared of bringing that type of, I think, Farsi, that we couldn't control it in the nuances and the rhythms of English. It was hard, and I mean, if you listen to their band, there are a lot of, not a lot of them, but a portion of them, he was really just reading, you know, like
so it's basically the idea of Bahr Tawil.
Right,
I don't know how Bahr Tawil is, but
the long
yeah. Okay, yeah, thank you. So it was the idea of Bahr Tawil, and he was reading a lot of Bahr Tawil at the time. And we're like, and that guy, Ahmadinejad, became the president, and he was really pissing us off. You know, it's just like it's
not funny.
It was very unpleasant to see, and we never wanted to be directly, you know, saying anything about anything. But Bahr Tawil seemed like a medium that you could, you know, talk about stuff and make fun of his stuff, because like that's the whole thing. You know, there's a humor to it.
And but it's not rhythm is like kind of more important than message.
Than the message, yes, exactly. So like started like that, and it's just like it's an album all mostly in 6/8, and it's like very happy, but definitely was one of the most depressed time of 127. We were like, oh my God, this guy now, and we can't play anywhere anymore. You know, because like when we became the president, like all the music venues get shut down. You know, all the little places that we could play. Tara Farabi, you know, it's like that guy Jafari Khan. Suddenly, it was this guy who was running Farabi Hall in Tehran Art University. Then he got fired, and he kind of liked us. He thought we were good kids. So he would let us play once a year, you know, there. And like he got fired, so we couldn't do that anymore. Like a bunch of the other places, Tehran got closed. Right. Which is like this music school that they had a little auditorium in there.
Yeah, so I wanted basically, I said that we had this house era. Yeah. That it was parties and houses. Then we had a short time of studio era, that people would go to studios, bring their friend, and we were playing. And then we got to the venue era, that I think it really was a short life. But I myself thought that, okay, the Iranian young generation revolution has a start.
Yeah, we thought we were getting there.
We're getting there, because there was a time that I think it's after Tehran Avenue, and we're going to really focus on that right now. But I was talking to Salmak, if he remembers that, but after, you know, those competitions, Yassi Sufi came and said UNICEF is putting money for doing an outdoor rock festival in Tehran, in North, what is it?
Like Niagaran Palace.
And we went there. Each of these bands were invited for 2 days,
we did not believe it. We were just like, all right, let's go check it out, but this is definitely a trap.
There was a rumor. So there was many rumors that either they're going to kill us here, it's going to be like around here, or something's happening. Something's like is helping us, UNICEF, to move from here, and obviously it got canceled.
Yeah, and of course,
like 4 hours before getting ready, maybe you guys knew about it more because we were not in contact with them, and we were like getting ready, like putting the drum set and stuff, and we got the corners that there was a, you know, waterfall. We loved that part, and we were going there. That Yassi told us this guy's canceled, right? So I think that era was very short. We had Talar Harkat.
So like a show getting canceled was a regular thing back then. Like the first Tehran Avenue thing, it was a music competition.
I think that was, you can start talking about it, how it happened and how you said,
Yeah, the first time, so it was basically the story that I told, that Bobak told us to submit music, and a lot of bands did. How many bands submitted music for that one? Like maybe 20?
The first one, yeah, was one like more than 20 bands.
More than 20 bands.
But the first year was your band, 127. Second year was Abdi, different song, and also I did my own song.
Your own song, yeah.
Was kind of 80 bands.
And then you became the jury for the third year.
I became jury at the third year, and the third year was Salome was there, and there was huge amount, like was more than 200, 300.
Right.
And then everyone figured out, oh, there is underground music here, and everyone was playing.
I remember that
was 2003.
There was this like show that we had.
82.
Yeah, there was this show that we had, and because like nobody knew that being a band is a thing. You could be a band, you know. It's like we didn't certainly know that. And by the third time, a lot of younger people knew that was, all right, so that's the thing, we can have a band. It's not something that we just like, you know, copy our parents' traditional tapes.
And you know, can I share something with because definitely you're that smart to I don't know, you can share your idea about this, that you know, from the Western point of view, from the research view, we can see those innocent musicians in Iran and Islamic Republic, and under the limitation, under the censorship, we were doing hard things, and we had a really hard time. Definitely, it was true. But for us, honestly, for myself, for our band, for my friends, for anyone on that festivals, was not that we are doing something revolutionary, because we should just be careful that not spiritualizing the idea of that. We were like fighting with the censorship, or we were just having fun.
Nobody was fighting.
Exactly.
We never thought we were rebels or like we're doing anything revolutionary.
But from the outside of Iran, when we see definitely there is where we can animate the Islamic Republic as the worst regime about the art, which is right, and also our musicians are very very unguilty, innocent, and very, very like full talented musicians that all of them were under censorship, and if they were out of this censorship, they were going to be Mozart, Bach, or Beethoven or something. No, it's not true. That's we were also. That's why we don't remember some of those calendars, because we were walking on the sky many times, and we were young, we were having fun, but now we can look back to that history and honestly be proud of some point of that, to just, okay, we had no idea that we were doing these things. And for example, that Abdi Beramafar, a friend of mine, was saying, because twice definitely you had this experience, twice on a stage they closed our concerts. We were playing, and then the guy came, okay, give me the mic and go, and it was like this. Yeah. And you know, that kind of pain, that kind of pressure, and Abdi Beramafar was saying, I really need Roger Waters to be here to see if he is more painful or us to just have it, because he was, you know, he always was complaining about the limitations of the British society, and his problem was with Margaret Thatcher, but that was the true story and happened to any one of us. I think I'm always try to keep it in my own mind to keep this balance, not exaggerating of our experience and not that like humiliating that.
So I wanted to actually talk a little short about this politicization of our, time and era. And I share my experience because, as I said, I was doing something completely irrelevant to music, and then suddenly I became a singer because I was trying to mimic you, I think. And But I was doing like 10 years of my own science in IPM, Institute of Physics and Mathematics, and no one asked me what you're doing. So I got the microphone the first time, and I started singing. Then, like in 2 weeks, Euronews, BBC, Arte, everyone was around us. And in the beginning, we were like sort of liking it,
and
but then
for them was just their jobs. They were just having a reportage. It was not just like really they're caring about us. That was like, okay, we have this few nice young generation that, blues.
So that's what I wanted to say.
That was something. But everyone in Iran, all the young musicians, not definitely the smart ones, but many of them, they were, Akhtar is coming. Let's talk about Ahmadinejad. Let's talk about the government.
No,
let's
because
talk about
that
the
was
society.
the thing. Like now that I think about it, it's back then we
Regime is
really thought that that's exposure for us as a band, and it's going to be great. People are going to hear us. But
and first experiences, actually.
But it went too much because
I remember there was a time right before the election of Ahmadinejad. There were like all these crew of reporters with this one translator, and he was the guy who was guiding all these reporters around. They would go and interview Hashemi Rafsanjani, and then we'd go interview Ahmadinejad, and they would come to Golkhune. We were like really happy about it and talk about it, but you would, as I do it professionally right now as a musician, you would never get exposure for your band or your music in a news channel.
Right.
We didn't
we were
know
waiting for
then.
Euronews to show us, It's crazy,
and like we didn't know it back then, but they used us. I was like, there's this, election going on, and these guys, and also they play music in Iran.
So that's the point.
Wow.
At some point, I felt I am the Coco, the gorilla, and they're showing that we can also talk. Of course we could. We had the '60s of Persian jazz, rock music that now when I look back to that, I don't know if you guys heard the Raks record.
Yeah, those are great.
And we had that, we passed that, we just forgot, and it was in our genes somehow that it came back. So I just wanted to because for the non-Iranians, the way that this happened to us first was nice, but then at least me, I felt really bad that we're like that monkey in a cage that they're showing that, we can also do this.
Exactly.
So let's move.
Also, I don't know, the underground music on that time, I think, was a luxury problem of the.
What do you mean?
I think we had many priorities. We have many most important problem in Iran based on that, about the poverty. And then no one from the Akhtar, from the ZDF, although they were like, I didn't see that. Just they putting or making a reportage about the poor people in Tehran, and there was just caring about some
Metallica cover band.
Exactly, yeah. To just what is your problem? But my problem was not a priority because I was just having fun with my own job, and everything is fashion, and definitely that time was that kind of fashion.
Time do we have? No, I want to finish it by a little focusing on each of them, if it's possible, like 2 minutes for each of them. Okay, yeah. So because you talked about how Saadabi Sahaf was great in their music, and I want to just say, when I listened to Tourange, I know it's not like your best hit, but I was always wondering that, what is this band? Because the band sounded great, right? So
very original.
Yeah, it was very original, and none of us know about those guys, I think. I want you to just in a minute tell us that how you get to those people, because that was not anymore.
Yeah, I had this opportunity with a very low budget to record some of my songs in a studio in Tehran. After finishing the military service and also having those unsuccessful concerts with Abdi and the band,
right?
I moved back to Tehran, and then the studio asked me to record another album.
Okay.
And then I asked those guys to
come.
Play
so it was
with
a
each
professional
other,
scene.
and that was permitted because most of the lyrics was from the Persian classical music, classical poets, like from Rumi, Hafiz, and attar and all.
So, and I want to like finish this with you, because I think he's going to talk about the present of his like what's happening in Iran right now. But so when I said he's a musician that's a genius, I think I want to just mention that like 3 years ago when I was talking to him, because he picked an instrument that was not very like no one was really like how did you get that instrument?
So I was like, my parents are both musicians, and when I was a little kid, I was playing pianos because everyone thinks that your kid should play the piano, and I fucking hated it. It felt like sitting in an office desk,
right?
And I went to Tehran Conservatory when I was 12. And everyone thought that I was going to play piano, but then I saw this kid with a loud, shiny horn walking. I was like, I want that. That's why I picked the trombone, and that was the only instrument we didn't have at home. Obviously.
And I want to say that this person taking
and he is instrumentalist, as also he is very like humble to saying that. But
exactly.
Salmak is instrumentalist musician,
and he
plays a lot of instruments.
He picked an instrument that was not that popular in Iran, and he got to a point that when he came here, Philip Glass got him to play. You told me that you were just playing a D for him.
Well, that's his music.
That's how his music is. But his D was so perfect that he picked this guy among a lot of other like.
Yeah, but I mean, it's really funny. Like traditionally, symphonic orchestra has 3 trombones. Tehran Symphonic Orchestra had 2 trombones, and when I was 18, still in conservatory, they came and was like, dude, you should come and play at Tehran Symphonic Orchestra. And so it basically ruined my education because I never went to school, ever. It took me 7 years to get my bachelor in music because I was like, all the professors were my colleagues during the day, and my mom really had a hard time. I remember just like trying to put me to school. She's like, kid, you got to go study. I was...
But even now, he's again like the humble that he was talking about. After trombone, he moved to something new, that he's a producer right now in Magnetic Pink, and he's recording and like doing live music with very, very amazing bands. I learned about some of them today.
Well, I got lucky. I don't play it cool or anything. I just got
lucky,
extremely lucky.
And also, they are the first Iranian band, not specifically underground or overground, but to play that they played in South by Southwest.
Right.
I'm really enjoying how this panel turned to be
after
about
that,
awesome. Thank you,
You're in the
guys.
And also to add, excuse me, Nigel, before just open the panel to the people, I will just add something about your question about Turanj and Hafiz and Sadi and Rumi. That's another idea that I forgot that time is owning the concept of the Rumi for your music. That's why make it contemporary. If Rumi is talking to his own beloved, you can just have your own interpretation of that and then make it contemporary with your own. Maybe if something was sounding different to some of the audience, maybe that's why one of the reasons to just having, for example, in Zolf, I had this example many times. When a traditional singer, Iranian singer, they sing Zolf, is just Hafiz is there, and each line of Hafiz is talking about something, or maybe each 2 lines are talking about something. But the singer from the beginning to the end is himself, Mr. X, Mr. Y. He is sitting there and he is singing Hafiz. But I was kind of trying to be an actor, to just characterize all of those lines. And then the first line, behalf of a young man, second line, behalf of another person, third line, fourth line. That's why these are all just experience, and definitely you can't generalize them. And having this as a rule to just deliver to everyone.
And in fact, I would argue that it's Zulf Farhadnadeh that made you really famous in Tehran, and then people went back to Turanj, because Zulf Farhadnadeh was on Tehran Avenue, on the website of Tehran Avenue, and you know, exactly, and there was also that actress in the video, which made things a bit complicated, but it was that song where you really performed each of those lines, the old man and the, that I think really, I remember making you sort of an overnight sensation. Really.
I had that song on repeat when it came out. Really, you're just like, this is really good.
Thank you so much.
All right, do we have time for any question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
so how are we going to...
Good question. What's in the bottles?
Let's use them.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, cheers. Cheers, everybody.
We gotten old. We can't do that anymore.
We are generally like excited. It's not about that thing inside.
Questions?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think everything is solved now.
I'm sorry, I know I just made a comment, but I do want to make another comment. And you know, there's obviously, I totally appreciate all the sentiments expressed by all three of you about how you were young and you were having a good time, and you know this resistance toward being framed as the tortured sort of young Iranian under repression under the Islamic Republic and all of that. Totally appreciate that. But I think that resistance to that has also led to some form of selective forgetting on all of your parts.
This is
because I talked to all of you. I talked to Mohsen in 2009 for the first time.
2009, yeah.
October 2009.
1387.
In 2000.
You're a good mathematician, like you can do that.
In 2008, I actually saw you at the House of Artists, and you know, we didn't have much of a conversation, but I was there at that session. I spoke to Salmak and Yahya and other band members of Sal 27, sort of mid-2000s, maybe even earlier. You know, you guys were having a tough time. I mean, it was hard to operate and to feel like you were putting your soul and blood and everything into your music, and we're having a hard time actually making your music count and making, you know,
we tried so much to get permission from Ministry of Education.
But we thought that it's part of it.
They didn't give us. It was very difficult, but.
So I just want to say, you know, as much as I appreciate all of that, also let's not discount, you know.
No, it's like,
some of those
I mean, was not
that
conscious. I mean, like most of that for us was not with idea of revolution, was just unconsciously doing that with the passion of music, just doing. Many times going upstairs to that Ministry of Culture to just get permission. But that's funny, after Ahmadinejad, because Ministry of Culture to get permission to us to publish our albums, that was the only way to be someone, to be somebody and to be up there. And
this
then
is slightly still the pre-internet.
Yeah, but after Ahmadinejad, it was like a dad, like a father, you know, that we were sons and we were just, Father, please give us permission to just be out there. But after
Ahmadinejad was kind of that father thing.
Exactly.
I was like, what? Dude, get out of here.
After Ahmadinejad's era, that dad was absolutely crazy and out of mind, and that's why the real underground music came up after that. Everyone with having software, home studios.
Right.
They didn't care about the Ministry of Culture. They published their own music via internet, and okay, we were unlucky, honestly.
Yeah.
Passing on the torch.
Thank you so much.
You should ask something.
Well, thank you so much. For me, of course, whatever I heard, it's a revelation. This is a word that I'm not very familiar with, and quite remarkable. But also from the perspective of a historian, when I look at what you've just told us, I see that there must be some kind of a context for the kind of music that you produced, a cultural production that you had, a market for it as well. my question to you is, as a whole, how far do you think, this is follow-up of what we heard from Rahim, this is the outcome of a very torturous, difficult social environment or political environment that created this particular mode of music and gave it such a prominence? Or do you think that regardless of the political circumstances and the presence of a police state or authoritarian regime, there was a reception for your music out there because of the generational change? Because which of these do you think of these two factors, if you can actually differentiate them, were most significant? And of course, there is a second part to my question, is that the fact that you're all here, rather than being in Iran, what does that say? Does it say that, in a sense, that authoritarian regime prevailed over this kind of a cultural production? Or do you think that this is an ongoing thing, that it's, regardless of your presence or absence, it's just continuing?
So for first part of your question, I think that having the Islamic Republic of Iran as a regime that it is the reason that the music that we all play in Iran is like that. And it's like, music has value in Iran just because of Islamic Republic. Because like in modern countries like the US, music totally lost value. Music is a lifestyle now. There is no such a thing as a music with a message or music that just like would trigger the audience. There's no such thing as that. It's been gone since the 70s and the 80s, like after Vietnam War and like all of that. There's no music that actually does that.
Smart point.
Iran, because of the Islamic Republic, there is still music. Music has values, and all of that. But and I don't know if Iran was like speaking for like a free country, we would still play or at least say that kind of stuff, lyric-wise. Or even people would, give us the attention that they did under the circumstances. On the note of leaving, I think wherever you live for 25 years is enough. You can go somewhere else. And Iran certainly is not the most pleasant place to live, at least for someone like us to live there the entire life. I love Tehran. It's just we were touring around when we lived in Tehran with Sadri Sahaf for like 4 years in a row. We would just like go do shows in the US, in Europe, everywhere, and come back to Tehran because like that was home. But then it got to the point that it wasn't home, just because of Ahmadinejad. I don't have any political, but because of that guy, it just got much more unpleasant to live. I remember when he became the president, the night before I was walking in Van Eyck and it smelled like dirty socks. All those Basijis were out. I was just like, holy shit, this guy's gonna get president. He's gonna get elected tomorrow. And he did. And since that, day, it was very unpleasant to live in Iran.
I think you guys relate with that these days.
Yes. It's a deja vu. I certainly have like everything, we don't want to talk about.
So maybe your music will be also a little.
And especially like this is happening right now because like I see more of bands that are like every show that you go to, bands that are not political. They come up on the stage and say something about the current situation or Trump or about a specific thing like. NRDC or whatever. And now like we're getting to the point that people are talking about political stuff that they didn't for the last 8 years because like everyone was super friends with the administration because they were nice. But Iran was that basically. So I don't know if it wasn't the Islamic Republic we would do this still or like the way that we did it or not.
Ahmadinejad at least has read one book in his life.
Sure. Oh yeah, this guy is...
Yeah.
Good point.
But regarding the second part of your question, Professor, I think that's good related to our next session, because about talking about the depoliticizing the music. I think that's a very good question. That why we're here, and because after getting rid of us, they really know the game.
Now that rock music that they had a problem with back then in Iran when we played it, it's all legal. They play that kind of music in the radio. All the bands have, because there's one simple reason, because that music is not the mainstream music in the West anymore. I think hip hop is the new thing for Iran that is just, being banned because
I was telling Salome yesterday that we even have Islamic rap to just supporting the very fundamentalist Islamic ideas with rap music. That's why they for example, they pushed Sade Bistahaf to be, but they're making fake Sade Bistahaf inside. That's another story that we talk about in the next session.
Yes, I think time-wise we're
Thank
really...
you.
Yeah, thanks a lot for letting us...
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you.